Captain Jun Kim stood on the bridge of the HSS Defiance. His eyes were fixed on the main screen. The screen showed 1,000 alien ships coming toward them. The ships were shaped like crescents. They glowed with a cold blue light against the blackness of space. "Status report," said Jun. His voice was calm even though he knew they were the only human ship within 3 light years. Lieutenant Sue Park looked at her screen. She did not look up as she spoke. "The Vexor fleet is coming in attack formation. Their weapons are ready to fire. They are not answering our calls. They are not here to talk, Captain." The communication system made a crackling sound. Then Engineer Hyun Lee's voice came through. "Captain, the quantum fold drive is working, but if we jump now, it might break completely. We need at least 30 minutes to make it stable." Jun nodded. 30 minutes they did not have. The Vexor would be close enough to fire in less than 10 minutes. "They found us because of the people on the planet," said Commander Dae-yoon, his second in command. "The colony on Proxima I has over 5,000 people. If we run away, those people will die." Everyone on the bridge was quiet. They all knew about the Vexor. The aliens thought humans were like bugs that needed to be killed. In the 15 years since humans first met them, the Vexor had destroyed 3 human colonies. "What are our options?" Jun asked. "If we fight them in the normal way, we have a 0.13% chance to live," Sue said as her fingers moved quickly over her tactical screen. "Even with our best shields and weapons, we are still 1 ship against 1,000. Jun looked closely at how the enemy ships were arranged. "What about fighting in a way they won't expect?" Sue looked up with a small smile. "That depends on how creative we want to be, sir." Jun turned to face his crew. "The Defiance is not just any warship. It is the best ship humans have ever made. It can change, surprise, and do what seems impossible." He walked toward the middle of the bridge where a 3D image of space floated. "And we are not just any crew. We are the best Earth has." He pointed to a part of the enemy fleet. "They think as one mind. 1,000 ships moving as one unit. That is their strength, and also their weakness." "What are you thinking, Captain?" Dae asked. "We are going to show these aliens why humans are the most feared species in this part of space," Jun said, his eyes bright with determination. "And why they should have brought more ships." The bridge became busy with activity. Crew members moved quickly between stations, checking systems and preparing for battle. "How many weapons do we have ready?" Jun asked. Jaquan, the weapons officer, looked up from his station. "All main guns are ready. We have 48 quantum torpedoes. Shield systems are at full power." "And the special systems?" Jun asked more quietly. Jai lowered his voice. "The G8 host drones are ready. All 50 of them. And Project Sunburst is green, though it's never been used in real battle." Jun nodded. Sunburst was their last resort, a weapon so powerful and strange that even most of the crew did not know what it could do. Sue was studying the approaching fleet. "Captain, I noticed something odd about their formation. The ships in the middle are arranged differently." Jun moved to her station and looked at the display. She was right. While most of the fleet moved in perfect lines, the center had a cluster of 5 larger ships surrounded by a tight protective ring. "They're command ships," Jun said. "They must control the rest of the fleet from there." "If we could hit those ships," Da began. "Exactly," said Jun. "But first, we need to get closer without being destroyed." He called the whole crew to attention through the ship's communication system. "This is Captain Kim. In a few minutes, we will face the largest Vexor fleet ever seen. They think we will either run or die quickly. They are wrong." He paused, looking around at the determined faces of his bridge crew. "Humans have always been at our best when things seem hopeless. Throughout our history on Earth, we won battles we should have lost. We survived disasters that should have killed us. We explored places that seemed too dangerous to go." The ship hummed with power around them as the engines increased output. Today, we will show the Vexor why challenging humanity was their biggest mistake. We may be outnumbered, but we are not outmatched. Each of you was chosen for this ship because you are the best at what you do. Now is the time to prove it. Min Choi, the science officer, spoke up from her station. Captain, I've been analyzing their communication patterns. They use a quantum-linked system. All ships receive orders at exactly the same time. No delay. Can we disrupt it? June asked. Min hesitated. Maybe. Hyun and I have been working on a kind of virus that might confuse their systems, but we would need to get it into their network. The GAO's drones could deliver it, suggested Ta Ryu, the communications specialist. They're small enough to avoid detection if we launch them during our first attack. June considered this. The GAO's drones were tiny, unmanned ships, almost impossible to detect. They were meant for spying, not attacking, but they could be reprogrammed. Do it, he ordered. Min, Ta, work with Hyun to load the virus into the drones. G, prepare our main weapons to target their outer defenses. We need to make enough noise and light to hide the drone's launch. Day looked worried. Even if we disrupt their communications, we're still facing 1,000 ships. Our shields won't last long under that much fire. That's why we won't stay in one place, Jun said. Hyun, I know the quantum fold drive isn't stable enough for a long jump, but can it handle a series of small jumps? Just enough to move us around the battlefield quickly. Hyun's voice came back over the comm. Short jumps might work, Captain, but each jump will weaken the drive. I can maybe give you 5 or 6 before it fails completely. That's all we need, Jun said. He turned to the navigation officer. Plot 5 jump points around their fleet. Focus on positions that will give us clear shots at their command center. The navigation officer nodded and began entering coordinates. 8 minutes until they're in firing range, Sue announced. Jun returned to his command chair. Send this message on all frequencies. Vexor Fleet, this is Captain Jun Kim of the HSS Defiance. You are entering human space. Turn back now or be destroyed. Tai sent the message. Seconds later, she shook her head. No response, Captain. I didn't expect one, Jun said. But now they know who's about to beat them. The bridge grew quiet as the final preparations were made. The Vexor fleet grew larger on the view screen, their crescent ships now clearly visible. Gaost drones ready for launch, Jai reported. Virus uploaded. Main weapons charge, Sue added. Shields at maximum. Jump coordinates plotted, said the navigation officer. June took a deep breath. What they were about to attempt had never been done before. One ship against 1,000. But as impossible as it seemed, he felt a strange calmness. This was what the Defiance was built for. This was what his crew was trained for. 6 minutes to weapon range, Sue announced. On the screen, the Vexor fleet continued its approach, unaware of what the humans had planned. Launch the GKO's drones, June ordered. Keep them in stealth mode until they reach the target. 50 tiny dots appeared briefly on the tactical display before disappearing into the stealth field. Ready our first jump, Jun said. The moment they open fire, we disappear. Day leaned closer to him. Do you really think this will work? He asked quietly. Jun met his first officer's eyes. I think we're about to make history, he replied, one way or another. The Vexor fleet moved closer. 5 minutes until they could fire. The crew of the Defiance waited in tense silence. One human warship against 1,000 alien ships. The odds were impossible, but humans had always done the impossible. 4 minutes until they can fire, Sue said, watching the enemy fleet grow larger on the screen. Captain Jun turned to Ta. How are the GHOS drones doing? Moving perfectly, Captain, Tai replied. They're getting closer to the Vexor fleet. No signs that they've been detected. Min looked up from her science station. The virus is ready. Once the drones reach their targets, we can activate it. June nodded and turned to Hyun's face on the communication screen. Hyun, Status of the quantum fold drive. As ready as it can be for short jumps, Captain, Hyun said. His face looked tired but determined. But each jump will put stress on the system. I can't promise more than 5 or 6 before it fails. 5 or 6 will have to be enough, Jum said. He looked at the tactical display where the Vexor fleet was spread out before them. 1,000 ships against 1. Dad pointed to the display. Look at how they're moving. The outer ships are speeding up. They're trying to surround us. Classic Vexor tactics, Jun said. They always try to surround their enemy. But that will spread them thin. Jay checked his weapons console. All weapons ready, Captain. Quantum torpedoes loaded. 3 minutes, Sue announced. June stood up and walked to the center of the bridge. This is it. Everyone remember your jobs. Timing is everything. If we make one mistake, we all die. The crew nodded. They all knew what was at stake. Geos drones have reached the edge of the Vexor fleet, Tay reported. They're moving into position. On the tactical display, tiny dots representing the drones were now mixed with the enemy ships. The drones were so small that the Vexor sensors couldn't detect them. 2 minutes, Sue said. June returned to his captain's chair. Prepare for first jump. As soon as they fire, we move. The bridge was quiet. Everyone was focused on their tasks. Outside, the 1,000 Vexor ships continued to approach. Their crescent shapes now filled the main screen. 1 minute, Sue said. Drones in final position, Tay reported. Min's hands moved quickly over her console. Virus ready to activate on your command. 30 seconds, Sue counted down. June gripped the arms of his chair. Prepare to jump on my mark. Vexor ships are charging weapons, Ju warned. Geos drones ready, Ta said. 15 seconds, Sue said. June took a deep breath. Activate the virus. Now. Min pressed a button on her console. Virus deployed. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The Vexor ships continued their approach. 10 seconds, Sue said. Did it work? Dai asked, looking at the tactical display. Wait for it, Min said, watching her readings closely. 5 seconds, Sue counted. 4, 3, 2. Suddenly, the pattern of the Vexor fleet changed. Several ships on the outer edge moved out of formation. Others slowed down. A few even stopped completely. It's working, Min shouted. The virus is affecting their systems. Vexor ships are firing. She warned as the first enemy weapons lit up the darkness of space. Jump now, June ordered. The stars blurred as the Defiance disappeared, only to reappear moments later behind the right side of the Vexor fleet. We've jumped successfully, the navigation officer reported. Position is exactly as planned. Fire all weapons, June ordered. The Defiance unleashed its arsenal. Quantum torpedoes shot out into space, each finding its target among the confused Vexor ships. Laser cannons fired in rapid sequence, cutting through the enemy's weakened shields. Direct hits on 12 enemy ships. G reported with excitement. 3 destroyed, 9 heavily damaged. On the tactical display, the Vexor fleet was in chaos. The virus had disrupted their communication system. Without orders from their command ships, they couldn't coordinate their attacks. The virus is working better than expected, Min said. It's spreading through their quantum network faster than we thought. June studied the display. Focus fire on this section, he said, pointing to a cluster of ships that were still moving in formation. They must be operating on backup systems. Targeting now, G said. The Defiance's weapons fired again, tearing through more enemy ships. They're starting to target us, Sue warned. Some ships are regaining control. Prepare for second jump, Jun ordered. The navigation officer entered new coordinates. Ready, Captain. Several Vexor ships fired at the Defiance. The ship shook as the shots hit its shields. Shields at 92%, Jai reported. Jump now, Jun ordered. The Defiance vanished again, reappearing at a new position on the left side of the Vexor fleet. "Fire everything we've got at their left flank," Jun commanded. Again, the human warship unleashed its weapons. More Vexor ships exploded or drifted powerless in space. "This is working," Dai said, amazed. "We've already taken out 27 enemy ships." "Don't celebrate yet," Jun warned. "There are still 973 more." "The virus effect is starting to fade," Min reported. "Some Vexor ships are adapting their systems to fight it." "How long until they regain full control?" Jun asked. "Maybe 5 minutes," Min said. 10 at most. "Then we use those minutes well," Jun said. He turned to the tactical display. "Look at their formation now. See how they're trying to regroup around those 5 ships in the center." Day nodded. "The command ships. They're pulling back to protect them." "Exactly," Jun said. "They're making a defensive circle. But they're also giving away which ships are most important." "Should we target the command ships directly?" Ji asked. Jun shook his head. "Not yet. They're too well protected. We need to thin out their defenses first." More Vexor ships fired at the Defiance. The ship shook harder this time. "Shields down to 78%, Jai reported. "Prepare for third jump," Jun ordered. "This time, take us above their fleet." The ship jumped again, appearing directly above the Vexor formation. "Perfect position," Jun said. "Now target their upper defenses. Use the quantum torpedoes." The Defiance fired again. From this angle, their torpedoes could reach deeper into the Vexor formation. Several more enemy ships exploded. "Good hits," Ji said. "We're making progress." But the Vexor were adapting quickly. More and more ships were breaking free from the virus effect. Their attacks became more coordinated. "We're taking heavy fire," Su warned. "Shields down to 65%. "The QFD is showing stress signs," Hyun reported from engineering. "We might have only 2 or 3 more jumps." Jun studied the tactical display. They had destroyed or disabled about 50 Vexor ships, but the rest were regrouping. Time was running out. "We need to hit their command now," he decided. "Prepare for fourth jump. Take us as close to their center as possible." "That's extremely risky," Captain Dai warned. "We'll be surrounded." "It's our only chance," Jun said. "We need to take out their command before they fully recover." The navigation officer entered the new coordinates. "Ready, Captain." "Shields down to 60%, Jai reported as more enemy fire hit the Defiance. "Jump now," Jun ordered. The ship vanished and reappeared right at the edge of the defensive circle protecting the 5 command ships. Immediately, they were met with intense fire from all directions. The Defiance shook violently. "Shields dropping fast," Ji shouted. 53%, 48%, 42%. "Target the second ship from the center," Jun ordered, pointing to a Vexor ship with unusual antenna arrays. "That's their main command vessel. Hit it with everything we have." The Defiance's weapons all fired at once, focusing on the target. The Vexor ship's shields glowed under the assault. "Their shields are holding," Ji said. "We need more power." "Hyun, can you give us more power to weapons?" Jun asked. "I'm rerouting power from non-essential systems," Hyun replied. "You'll have it in 3 seconds." The Defiance continued to take heavy fire from all sides. "Shields at 35%, Jai reported. "We can't take much more of this." "Extra power to weapons now," Hyun announced. "Fire again," Jun ordered. "Don't stop until we break through their shields." The Defiance fired a second massive volley. This time, the Vexor command ship's shields flickered and failed. The next shots hit the ship directly. It exploded in a bright flash of light. Almost instantly, the coordinated attack from the Vexor faltered. Confusion spread through their ranks as ships suddenly lost guidance. "It worked," Ta exclaimed. That was their primary command node. But there was no time to celebrate. The Defiance was still surrounded, and despite the confusion, hundreds of Vexor ships were turning their weapons toward the human vessel. QFD status, Joan asked urgently. Critical, Hyun replied. We might have one more jump at most. Dozens of energy beams struck the Defiance all at once. The ship shook violently. Shields at 22%, Jai reported. Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7. We need to jump now, Dai urged. Not yet, Jum said, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. The Vexor ships were regrouping, but their formation was different. Without their main command node, they were falling back to backup plans. Begin sunburst sequence, Jun ordered. Set final jump coordinates to the center of their formation. The crew exchanged nervous glances, but followed their orders. Sunburst charging, Min reported. 80% and rising. One more jump, Jun said quietly. One more jump, and we show the Vexor why humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Sunburst at 90% charge, Min reported. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly. Around them, the Defiance continued to take heavy fire. The ship shuddered with each hit. Warning lights flashed across every control panel on the bridge. Shields at 18%, Ji announced. They won't hold much longer. Hyun, how's the jump drive? Jun asked. I've diverted all available power to it. Hyun replied through the crackling communication system. We have enough for one more jump. After that, it's dead. Jun nodded. That's all we need. On the main screen, the Vexor ships were regrouping. Without their main command ship, they were slower to react, but there were still hundreds of them surrounding the Defiance. Sunburst at 95%, Min said. Day moved closer to Jun. Captain, what exactly will Sunburst do? The crew deserves to know. Jun looked at his first officer, then at the rest of the bridge crew. They had all followed his orders without question. They deserved the truth. Sunburst isn't a normal weapon, he explained. It creates a small tear in space itself. For a few seconds, it will generate what scientists call a controlled quantum singularity, a black hole. Sue asked, her eyes wide. Not exactly, Jum said, but close enough. It will disrupt matter at its most basic level. Anything caught in its effect will come apart. A heavy silence fell over the bridge as the crew realized what this meant. How big will the effect be? Day asked quietly. In testing, it affected an area about 3 kilometers wide, Jum said, but this is the first time it's been used in real battle. No one knows for sure. How do we avoid being caught in it ourselves? Ji asked. The plan is to jump to the center of their fleet, activate Sunburst, and jump away before it fully activates, Jun explained. But with the jump drive failing after one more use. He didn't need to finish. Everyone understood. There might not be a way out. The ship rocked as another round of enemy fire hit them. Shields at 15%, Jai reported. Hull breaches now on decks 3 through 8. Emergency systems are holding but barely. Sunburst at 98%, Min said. Jun looked at his crew. I won't order any of you to stay for this final jump. Anyone who wants to take an escape pod should go now. No one moved. Not one person left their station. It's been an honor serving with all of you, Jun said, his voice thick with emotion. Sunburst at 100%, Min announced. Ready to activate. Jun took a deep breath. Set jump coordinates to the center of the Vexor fleet. Prepare Sunburst for immediate activation upon arrival. The navigation officer entered the coordinates. Ready, Captain. Jump in 3, 2, 1. Now, Jun ordered. The stars blurred one last time as the Defiance disappeared, only to reappear seconds later right in the middle of the Vexor fleet. They were surrounded on all sides by enemy ships. Activate Sunburst, Jun commanded. Min pressed a sequence of buttons on her console. Sunburst activated, 30 seconds to full effect. Immediately, The ship's power levels began to drop as Sunburst drew massive amounts of energy from the core. "All Vexor ships are targeting us," Sue shouted. "Shields at 10%. Ju reported as enemy fire pounded the Defiance from every direction. "Can we jump out?" Joan asked Hyun. The engineer's face was grim on the screen. "The drive is completely drained, Captain. There's no power left for another jump." June nodded, accepting their fate. "Then we make these 30 seconds count. Fire all remaining weapons. Take as many of them with us as we can." The Defiance's weapons blazed in a final act of defiance. Several more Vexor ships exploded under the assault. 20 seconds to Sunburst full effect. Min counted down. "Shields at 5%, Jai reported. "Failing fast. Reroute emergency power to shields," Jun ordered. "We need to hold on just a little longer." The ship shook violently as more enemy shots found their mark. 15 seconds, Min called out. "Look," Ta suddenly pointed to the main screen. "Something's happening to the Vexor ships closest to us." Around the Defiance, a strange effect was beginning. The nearest enemy ships seemed to shimmer, their outlines becoming fuzzy and unclear. "It's starting," Min said with awe in her voice. "Sunburst is creating a quantum disturbance field." 10 seconds. She continued counting. The effect grew stronger. The closest Vexor ships were now visibly breaking apart, not exploding but simply unraveling. Matter itself seemed to be coming undone around them. "Shields failing," Ji shouted as the last of their defenses collapsed. 5 seconds, Min called. The quantum disturbance spread outward from the Defiance like a ripple in a pond, catching more and more Vexor ships in its effect. Where it touched, ships simply dissolved, their very atoms separating from each other. "Hull integrity failing on all decks," Day reported. "We're being affected too." 3 seconds. Min shouted over the noise of systems failing all around them. Jun gripped his chair as the ship shuddered. Panels exploded around the bridge, showering them with sparks. The lights flickered and dimmed. 2 seconds. The main screen showed a sight no human had ever seen before. Hundreds of Vexor ships were dissolving into clouds of particles. The quantum disturbance now extended several kilometers in all directions. 1 second. Jun closed his eyes, prepared for the end. But then, something unexpected happened. As the Sunburst reached full power, a sphere of blindingly white energy expanded outward from the Defiance. But instead of continuing to grow, it suddenly collapsed back in on itself, pulling the disturbance field with it. The bridge crew opened their eyes to find themselves still alive, floating in the middle of an enormous debris field where the Vexor fleet had been. What happened?" Dai asked, looking around in disbelief. Min checked her readings, her hands shaking. The Sunburst collapsed in on itself. It created a reverse quantum effect. Instead of continuing to expand outward, it imploded. "And that saved us?" Sue asked. "Apparently," Min said, still sounding shocked. "It was never supposed to do that. This wasn't in any of the test results." Jun looked at the main screen. Where there had been 1,000 Vexor ships, now there was only floating debris. The effect had been far more devastating than anyone had predicted. "Status report," he ordered, his voice hoarse. "Shields offline. Weapons offline. Life support at 48% capacity," Jai replied, working through the damage assessments. "QFD completely burnt out." "The Sunburst?" Jun asked. "Depleted," Min answered. "The core will need complete replacement. We won't be able to use that weapon again." Day checked the tactical sensors. Enemy status. Sue studied her readings. Approximately 320 ships completely destroyed. Another 400 or so with critical damage. The rest are retreating. A stunned silence fell over the bridge. "They're running," Ta said in disbelief. "The Vexor are actually running." Hyun's voice came over the comm, tired but happy. "We've got minimal propulsion, Captain. Enough to limp to the colony." at least. June nodded, allowing himself a small smile. Set course for Proxima Ia. Best possible speed. As the damaged warship slowly turned toward the colony, the long-range communication system suddenly activated. "Captain," Ta called out, "we're receiving messages, dozens of them. From Earth, from Mars, from every human outpost that could detect what just happened. Put them through," Jun ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the surprised face of Admiral Yunahan at Earth Command. "Captain Kim," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "What did you just do?" "Our sensors detected an energy pattern unlike anything we've ever seen before." Jun straightened in his chair. "Admiral, the HSS Defiance has fought and defeated a Vexor attack force. We request immediate medical help and repair teams at Proxima I." "A Vexor force? How many ships?" the Admiral asked. 1,000, Admiral," Jun replied calmly. "At least, that's how many there were at the start." The stunned silence that followed was broken when another communication channel opened. This one showed a Vexor. It was the first time any human had seen one of their leaders directly. The alien's shiny scales reflected light as it spoke. Its translator changed its clicks and hisses into human language. "Human vessel," it began, its tone showing respect and fear. "Your fighting has been noted. The collective pulls back its forces from human space. We request to talk." The meaning was clear to everyone on the bridge. The Vexor, who had never before thought humans were worth talking to, were now asking for peace talks. "We will send your request to Earth Command," Jun responded politely. "Until then, stay away from all human colonies." After the communication ended, Admiral Han appeared on screen again. "Captain Kim, secure your ship and crew. What you did today changes everything." The entire galaxy just saw what a single human ship can do when pushed too far. As the Admiral continued to speak, Jun looked around at his tired, injured crew. They had done the impossible. 1 ship against 1,000. They had not only survived but won. "We're receiving messages from the colony on Proxima I," Tay reported, tears in her eyes. "They're thanking us for saving them." Jun nodded. That was what mattered most. Not the victory, not the way they had shocked the galaxy, but the lives they had saved. The Defiance limped toward the colony, damaged but unbeaten. Behind them, the retreating Vexor ships spread the news across the galaxy. Humans were not to be underestimated. Ever. 3 weeks passed since the battle. The HSS Defiance now orbited peacefully above Proxima I. Emergency repair teams had fixed the worst damage. The ship could fly again, but it was far from fully repaired. Captain Jun stood by the large window in his quarters, looking down at the planet below. The colony was safe. All 5,000 people were alive because of what his crew had done. That thought gave him comfort when he remembered the 12 crew members who had died during the battle. His door chimed. "Come in," he said. Commander Dai entered, holding a datapad. "The final repair report, Captain. Earth is sending a special ship to take us home for a complete rebuild." "And the crew?" Jun asked. "All those injured will recover," Dai said with a smile. "Even Hyun, though the doctors say he'll complain about his burns for years to come." Jun nodded. That was good news. He turned back to the window. "Have you seen the reports from across the galaxy?" "Yes," Dai said. "News of what we did has reached every corner of known space. They're calling it the Battle of Proxima. Some are even calling it the day everything changed." "Because one human ship beat 1,000 alien ships," Jun said quietly. "Not just beat them," Dai corrected. "Changed the balance of power in the entire galaxy. 3 other alien species have contacted Earth asking for peace talks. Species that used to attack human ships on sight." Jun's communication panel beeped. "Captain, Admiral Han has arrived on the station," Tay's voice announced. "She's requesting permission to come aboard." "Permission granted," Jun replied. "Have the senior crew meet in the main mess hall." An hour later, the mess hall was filled with the Defiance's officers and many of the regular crew. The room was normally used for meals, but now it had been arranged for a ceremony. Admiral Una Hand stood at the front, her formal uniform decorated with gold medals. What the crew of the HSS Defiance achieved was thought to be impossible. She began, her voice strong and clear. 1 ship against 1,000. The odds were, well, there aren't numbers small enough to calculate them. She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of many crew members. Your actions have not only saved this colony, but have changed humanity's place in the galaxy. The Vexor Collective has signed a peace treaty. It's the first time in their known history they have ever done this with any species. A murmur of surprise ran through the crowd. The Vexor were known for never making peace. They conquered or were conquered. Nothing in between. 3 other previously hostile alien species have asked for meetings with human diplomats, the Admiral continued. They saw what one human ship could do, and they decided they would rather be our friends than our enemies. She turned to Captain June. Captain Kim, please step forward. June walked to the front of the room. For extraordinary courage and leadership, the Admiral said, I present you with the Star of Terra, humanity's highest honor. She pinned a shining medal to his uniform. The room erupted in applause. Thank you, Admiral, June said when the noise died down. But this honor belongs to the entire crew. I just gave orders. They carried them out, even when it seemed impossible. Each crew member will receive proper recognition, the Admiral assured him. But there's more. The HSS Defiance will return to Earth for a complete rebuilding. And then, Captain Kim, you and your crew will begin a new mission. Not one of defense, but of exploration. This announcement caused even more excited talk among the crew. Exploration missions were considered the best assignments in the fleet. After the ceremony, Jun found himself back on the bridge with his senior officers. The Admiral had returned to the station, and the crew was preparing for the journey back to Earth. I never thought I would see a Vexor ask for peace, Sue said, shaking her head in wonder. My grandparents died when the Vexor attacked our colony. I joined the fleet to fight them, not to make peace with them. Sometimes the best way to end a war is to show the enemy you can win it, Jones said. The Vexor respected strength. Now they respect ours. Min was looking at data from the battle on her screen. I've been studying the sunburst effect, she said. The way it collapsed in on itself instead of continuing to expand outward saved us. But that wasn't supposed to happen. A lucky accident? Dai asked. Min shook her head. I don't think so. The math doesn't support that. Something about the way the quantum field interacted with the Vexor ship's energy signatures caused the collapse. It's like the weapon. Adapted. Adapted. Ji looked confused. Weapons don't adapt. This one might have, Min said. It's based on quantum principles we barely understand. The scientists who designed it said it might have unexpected effects. Will they build more like it? Tai asked. Jun shook his head. Admiral Han told me that Earth Command has decided not to make more sunburst weapons. The risk is too great. What if the next one doesn't collapse? It could keep expanding and destroy everything for light years around. So we showed the galaxy our biggest weapon, and now we're putting it away, Daz said. Is that wise? It doesn't matter, Jun replied. The important thing is that everyone thinks we can do it again. The galaxy now believes humans have weapons that can destroy entire fleets with a single ship. That belief will protect us better than the actual weapon. A young officer entered the bridge. Captain, we've received the final clearance for departure. The escort ships are ready. June nodded. Thank you, Ensign. He turned to his crew. Prepare the ship for departure. Set course for Earth. As the Defiance broke orbit, a formation of 6 other human warships fell into position around it. They were there to protect the damaged ship on its journey home, but also to honor it. Captain, Ta called out, we're receiving messages from the colony. They're sending their thanks again. June smiled. put it on the main screen. The screen lit up with images of the colonists. Men, women, and children were waving and cheering. Some held signs that said, "Thank you, Defiance," and "Humans forever." "This is what we fought for," Jun said to his crew. "Not for glory, not to shock the galaxy, but for them. For all humans trying to make a life among the stars." The Defiance and its escort ships accelerated away from Proxima II, heading for Earth. Behind them, the news of their victory continued to spread across the galaxy. The story of one human warship facing 1,000 alien ships became legend. In the years that followed, humanity expanded further into space than ever before. New colonies were established. New discoveries were made. And through it all, humans were treated with new respect by alien species. "Never underestimate humans" became a common saying among alien diplomats. Remember the Defiance. 5 years after the battle, Captain Jun stood on the bridge of the rebuilt Defiance. The ship was now bigger, faster, and more powerful, but it was still the same in spirit. "New mission orders, Captain," Dai said, handing him a datapad. Jun read the orders and smiled. "Set course for the edge of known space," he told his crew. "We're going to explore the Andromeda sector." As the Defiance jumped into faster-than-light travel, Jun thought about how much had changed because of one battle. Humans were no longer seen as easy targets by aggressive aliens. Now they were seen as equals, or even as a species to be careful around. One ship against 1,000 had seemed like impossible odds. But humans had always done the impossible. And now, the whole galaxy knew it. The end.